What is going on, everyone? Mike Singer and Mike Goolsby with this week's Mike Goolsby Show. We are back in the weekly rhythm of doing this show Sundays, 8 p.m. Eastern time. Maybe, when the NFL season gets started, we might move it back an hour. But anyways, we're here every Sunday night. Mr. Goolsby, how are you doing, my friend? Do you have a good weekend?
I had a great weekend, not as good as yours with the 30th birthday, buddy. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
And you got your some Angeli PT, man. What more could you ask for?
I sent out a funny tweet. I was like, more people are texting me about Angeli playing than my birthday, which was not true, but I think people got a kick out of it. But yeah, it was a great sports weekend for your boy. All my teams won. Angeli had the best 2-yard pass in college football history. So yeah, it was a great weekend, man.
Incredible. So there has been a little bit of a rift between you and Hyde in terms of Angeli's potential. And after seeing that 2-yard pass, Mike, I'm Team Singer, Team Angeli all the way.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. And Hyde got suspended without pay. So
again, I didn't know. I'm not being paid. Apparently Hyde is. I got to take this up with him after the show.
So Mike, yes, everyone hit the like button, please do that. If you're watching live with us, if you're watching back, if you're listening to podcasts, just park your car real quick, pop up YouTube, hit that like button, do that. That helps grow our channel. Of course, subscribe to our channel for more content. blueandgold.com is your home for Notre Dame football coverage and recruiting articles from myself and Kyle Kelly. So please do head to the website. And if you subscribe right now before, I want to say the deal might close down to like Monday at noon or so, half off for the first year of annual subscription. So please do check that out. So yeah, Mike, Notre Dame 42, Navy 3. What'd you think? What were some of your thoughts about the game?
I don't think you can really do Notre Dame's performance justice, Mike, without going back to the offseason. This isn't in chronological order, but both of your quarterbacks from last year transferred out. You've got a new offensive coordinator. You've got you lose a coaching legend and Coach Heastand. So we've got a new O-line coach in Joe Rudolph. We get a quarterbacks coach, which is new to the program. I know I'm missing something. I mean, you lost your starter at tailback and Logan Diggs. There's a new AD on the way. So, it was a tumultuous offseason. It was like, there was so much fodder for you and I and the Tim Hydes and the Tyler Horkas of the world to talk about in the offseason. It was like, damn, in a way, Mike, I was like a little bit disappointed that the season's here. It's like, because the offseason was so interesting. And I say that tongue in cheek. But taking all of that into account, brother, Notre Dame looked great. Sam Hartman looked great. The team looked prepared, and the team was dialed in. And you factor in that travel overseas and all the distractions over there, again, coupled with the offseason, it was a remarkable performance. And I want to tag that.
Yep.
Midway through the third quarter, and for folks that don't know, if you join Blue and Gold Illustrated, there's a message board. There's a game thread, which is just a stream of consciousness from, I'm sure, several inebriated people. It's a good time. And I was just kind of watching that as I'm watching the game. And like midway through the third quarter, I just had to add to the board. I'm like, man, Navy sucks. Navy sucks. As good as Notre Dame looks, there's the lack of talent was just brutally apparent. And beyond that, Mike, and we'll get into a little bit of the X's and O's, those Navy coaches did their players like a huge disservice, no pun intended with the disservice, but like misaligned, bad game plan, poor execution. But Notre Dame looked great. And it's a great confidence builder to kick off the season.
Okay, so you always look through the player lens of things, right? So I don't know if you'll be able to give me a great answer to this. Maybe take that off and just give me your analyst pundit. Put that hat on. Is it more of Navy was bad or Notre Dame was just really good, Mike? What do you think? How do you kind of, like Tim Hyde always says, all I care about is September 23rd, right? Can you say you learned a whole lot from that game considering how bad Navy was?
Um, taking X's and O's out of the picture, I think that what we kind of learned, what we sort of gleaned from that game is the team starting to reflect Coach Freeman's personality, his nature, and the way he wants to run a game, to operate a game. X's and O's wise and player evaluation, I'll get into that a little bit. But overall, I mean, that was probably my biggest takeaway with that analyst hat on, is how dialed in the team was, how aggressive they were on defense, how physical they were on offense. And that's what Coach Freeman wants out of his group.
Okay. All right. Let's get to some super chats real quick. We're going to have to go through these a little bit quicker because I'm sure you guys will just get in the super chats all night. We got some other things we want to discuss as well, but obviously we will get to these. Andrew Gilmore with $10. He posted this super chat at 2:36 Eastern time, so several hours before our show. He says, Mike, I'm trying not to be a brat with this question, just checking in. Are you starting to change your opinion from this winter about wanting to stick with Buckner rather than picking up Hartman, which is not really what your words were, but kind of were. Mike, what thoughts?
Yeah. And Andrew, I can't tell you how much I appreciate that preface there. I'm not trying to be a brat with the question. I'm just checking in. I appreciate the preface there. Am I starting to change my opinion? Yeah, I would say I'm starting to change my opinion. I mean, Sam looked great. Go ahead.
What was your opinion before? Because maybe people forgot or didn't hear about what your opinion was over the winter.
Oh, gosh. Holistically, I saw enough potential in Tyler Buckner that I thought he was a player you could really build a program around. I was upset in terms of really the 1-year rental aspect to Sam Hartman that's out of his control. That was a little annoying, and then ultimately you lose Tyler for a 1-year quarterback. You lose more depth in Drew Pine. I thought the NIL was a big piece to Sam choosing to go to Notre Dame. I know people plug your ears, but there was some money that changed hands, and there's obviously been endorsement deals to follow. Sam didn't come here, turn down money elsewhere to come compete with Tyler. So some of that felt icky to me. And it just really irked me that people didn't see the same amount of potential in Tyler that I did. And probably, Mike, the foundation of my argument was built around Tyler's inexperience at the high school level and even in college. And you saw that during the broadcast. Sam Hartman up to this game had 3,500 snaps, and then you've got little Tyler up there, 166, snaps. And it was that's what I'm talking about. I just thought he had enough potential. But yes, I'm starting to change my opinion in terms of Sam. And I'm going to try and just tap the brakes in terms of critiquing anything, because I don't want to be a buzzkill. I don't, but that's kind of why we're here. Well, at least why I am, maybe.
Absolutely, dude.
But I think the biggest thing that and I felt it, and I know if I can feel it watching through a screen at home, sitting on the couch, I know that the players can feel it on a plane or in the locker room on the field. Sam does bring a level of confidence to the team that's palpable. You can feel it. So maybe for that reason, up to this point, is why I'm starting to change my opinion. I think just his presence, obviously the experience, it brings a level of calm, and that probably adds to execution. You don't do anything well uptight.
Yeah. So your whole thing would be you get Buckner for 2 years, and that second year, when you ride him in 2023 at the position, then 2024 he's going to be better. And that team is going to be better in 2024 than the 1-year rental at Hartman. Then you got to start over in 24 and find a new quarterback, whether that's Angeli, Menchie, or going to the portal for a second straight year. So that part of the argument always did make sense to me, but I just never really thought that Buckner is Himothy, as the kids say these days. Yeah. And you might not love Buckner to the level that I love, Steve Angeli, but Buckner is always your boy. But anyways, I think that kind of covers this topic. And I'm sure you'll have to address it every single time that Hartman has a strong game. But
no, and I think we all got to move on. And I do find it a little odd. And this isn't across the board, but I do find it odd that players or fans would, root against a Tyler Buckner, even a Drew Pine, or any kid that transfers out for that matter. It's like a jaded It's like they got dumped or something. It's strange. I think it's bad karma. You got to root for all these kids.
Yeah, for sure. Wicked Bronco Productions just dropped a $20 super chat. Really appreciate this. It says, after Saints' performance against Navy, Mr. Goolsby, and the fact that Tyler has fallen to 3rd or 4th on the depth chart, has your opinion changed? Basically, the super chat that Andrew posted as well. He says, he adds, I think Sam proved Saturday he's not a gimmick quarterback.
Well, don't gloss it over. I appreciate. Yeah, I remember Wicked Bronco. We were kind of banging heads on that. Going way back to, I think it was January 1st, I kind of lost my mind over this Tyler Buckner transferring out, Sam Hartman rumored coming in. But I want to touch on the last piece here. I think Sam proved he isn't a gimmick quarterback. I'm still a little bit reserved. And Tim Hyde and I have become so simpatico. I don't want it to become like boring. But like he came on when your guys' post-game show, did a great job, and Tim's gotten very good at doing these, by the way, Mike.
Excellent.
But Tim was like, it's a scrimmage, felt like a scrimmage. Navy kind of sucks. And he said, he's like, Sam's numbers yesterday were very similar, if not like nearly identical to what Drew Pine did last year. It's Navy. So I'm optimistic. But yeah, I still don't see Sam as like a physically gifted, just all-star. I don't. It feels like another quarterback where his best traits are intangibles.
Yeah. Pulling up Pine's stats against Navy last year. 17 of 21, so 4 incompletions. That is the same as Hartman. For 269 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 1 pick. Okay. And also had a rushing touchdown. So who would have thunk it that out here Mike Goolsby in the street is praising the guy he called jockey last year. I mean, you can't even make this stuff up.
Well, I don't know if I'm praising Pine's performance. I'm just saying, objectively speaking, applying logic here, Sam's numbers were very similar to Pine, and none of us as fans felt like Pine was going to set the world on fire.
Well, just the irony is that you're using Pine here. That's just.
No, Tim gets all the credit for pulling that stat real quick, again, following post game. But yeah, I'm optimistic. But I watched a lot of film with Sam Hartman in the offseason from his time at Wake, and I have reason to have just, cautious optimism. I think that's healthy.
I agree. This is the thing, like, overreactions both way, right? Like, Notre Dame wins 42-3 against Navy. We are the best team ever. But I mean, then if Notre Dame has a 35-32 against Navy like it was last year, it's like, we're the worst team ever. So
yeah,
truth often lies somewhere.
And you can talk about that with the coordinator, with Coach Parker. Did a great job, folks. And we'll get into this, but hate to burst everybody's bubble, but it's the same offense. And Tim touched on that quite a bit. It's the same offense, same personnel groupings as you saw last year. I mean, play selection is up to the coordinator, but the framework's the exact same.
Our Indy Irish fan actually dropped a couple super chats. One without a message. And if you guys ever do accidentally just drop a super chat without a message, I will notice it, and you can just post another comment. You don't have to do another super chat. He does say, Goolsby, what is your opinion on Jaden Greathouse 3-catch, 2 touchdown performance? Was it a fluke, or will he continue good performances? Indy Irish fan, I'm really glad that you brought this up. Let me pull up the snap counts article. My buddy and coworker Jack Sowell posted at Blue and Gold. These the snap count totals are according to Pro Football Focus. This was bizarre to me.
You got to keep scrolling down to find our boy Greathouse, right?
Jaden Thomas, 38 snaps. That makes sense. Tobias Merriweather with just the one target. I think it was just one. Oh, well, and then the PI, or not PI, whatever. 35 snaps. Rico Flores had 19 snaps. Chris Tyree, 14. Starting wide receiver Chris Tyree. I guess it was a blowout. That's why Flores played more, but still. Salerno gets 11. How about Jaden Greathouse only had 8 snaps, and Colsey only had 7. I think that's kind of fascinating. But, yeah, Tim, for him to do all that on 8 snaps, and then the tight ends, I guess, played a ton. Mitch Evans, 50 snaps. Holden Stace, 39. It was definitely heavy on the tight ends. But, yeah, thoughts on some of these items?
Yeah, heavy on the tight ends. Back to what I'm saying is the offense kind of looks the same. So in regards to Greathouse, uh, who knows if it was a fluke, but the kid's he's a great player. He was great in high school. I think he wants to be great. He works at it. He's got a lot of God-given ability. And I loved his reaction, Mike. I mean, both catches, like you could see the passion. And I love to see that from such a young kid. And I thought he's watching him being interviewed at a press conference up at the podium, a ton of confidence, ton of composure. And for him to kind of catch those balls and own that moment, kind of screaming like he did, I eat that stuff up. Great play design on his second touchdown. My one little, oh geez. So we did the positional breakdown a couple weeks ago, position by position, my thoughts, etc. And in my mind, Singer, I'm super objective, and I'm not glass half full, glass half empty. I'm just there's water in the glass, and let's just see if it's cold or not, right? And the reaction was oh, that was super negative. You're super negative, dude. It's I'm just being objective. So if and when I critique even a Sam Hartman or a Greathouse that had a great game, it's these kids are going to go back and they're going to watch film and they're going to be great on every snap. They're going to go back and practice to improve. There's always stuff to improve upon. So if I call a thing or two out based off of my observations, please don't interpret that as being negative. However, Jaden's first touchdown, there wasn't a lot of separation, and that slot corner that was guarding him had his eyes in the backfield. I've watched it 4, 5, 6 times now. It had his eyes in the backfield. Jaden gets a nice release. The guy was able to kind of catch up, and there wasn't a lot of separation. We've talked a lot about, Mike, the lack of over-the-top speed. So that was just I'm super happy for the kid, but just something to keep an eye on is the separation. Great ball by Sam. Could have been picked off. So we'll see.
Okay. All right. Mike, I don't know if we're just going to, it's just a super chat night, my friend.
All right.
Indie Irish fan.
Season, buddy. We're into the season, it's how it goes.
I know. I love it. I love it. Mike says to defend Singer, he always approved of adding Hartman. I don't think I need any defending right now. I feel good. And then especially after Angeli had an even better completion percentage than Hartman. But continuing, he said Tim was correct last night. We're still in exhibition games part of the schedule, so slow the roll. Yeah, I mean, I agree, and I'm in the pro Hartman camp. Several months ago, and I'm also guys, I can't be yeah. See, this is why I was go get Hartman. I mean, it was Navy. It was Navy. So let's talk after NC State. So that's all I got to say about that. Did you have anything to add, Mike?
Well, I was just going to say, I was never against adding Hartman. I got upset when people just assumed that he was going to be your starter. And then we learn about this quarterback competition. Hartman maybe have been guaranteed a job. And it's just that stuff just never sat right with me. But, Singer, you did a great job. It was a long off season. And you're a great shit stirrer, dude. You know how to kind of push my buttons, and it makes for good podcasts. So kudos.
So when you say that, Mike, we can come on here and talk about the special teams. We could have excellent analysis about the special teams. People are going to they're going to be man, that Goolsby guy, his show sucks. They just talk about, we talk about what the people want to talk about. People like quarterbacks. That's just what it is, So
no, yeah,
I take that as a compliment that we talk about interesting things, Mike.
Well, yeah, this is entertainment, and I think you've heard Colin Cowherd say that a time or two, Mike. It's he talks about what people want to hear about. It's kind of the audience kind of dictates the content.
And that is where I don't watch much Cowherd anymore, but that is 100% where I got that line of thinking from. So, yep. Boom. Trash. My man who doesn't drop any comments except for it's a super chat. So we really appreciate that. He says, no greater show than Mike. Here's to a new year of great things. Very much appreciate the $10 super chat. Trash. Wicked Bronco Productions has another one here. He says, was it just me or did Audric Estime look a few steps faster than last season? Also, I know some fans give Freeman crap for being a quote-unquote players coach and not being hard on his guys, but he benched Audric after a fumble. Big respect.
There's a lot to unpack there. There's a lot to unpack.
There is. I mean, did Freeman confirm that? Like, you can't. I mean, it certainly looks like he may have been benched, but you don't know 100%. But this is the thing I want to add on to this super chat, and again, really appreciate it. Did you see him out there running the ball with Angeli with like 3 minutes to go? Like, what the heck was that?
I thought as I was watching, I said, and I think Tim alluded to this too, that they must have been trying to get him 100 yards and or go over. Because what did we have, like 192 yards for the game? I think it was either Audric goes over 100 and they go over 200 as a team. I think that was why they left him in the game.
Dude, that can't be good reasoning though, right?
Hey, I personally, I thought it was cool. I did. It didn't bother me at all, frankly. And and then when he was in, it was just 2 or 3, kind of a yard or two in a cloud of dust. He wasn't really making much hay at the end when he ought to have been out of the game. But I didn't have a problem with it. I really didn't. That being said, to get to the question here, Michael, was it just me to Audric look a few steps faster? I would agree. I really kind of like the way he carries the ball. He does look really tightly wound. Looks to be in shape, which is kind of a concern of mine. Another concern of mine with Audric, as I've watched this game, I think 4 times now, Mike, he'll make contact, kind of seeks out that contact, boom, right? Sort of lowers the boom. He's on one leg and then he pirouettes. He sort of spins out of that on one leg. And that one leg that he spins on, it's boom, kind of spins on one leg. I don't like him being straight-legged on one leg. Like, as a trainer, in a 230-pound back where they're going to gang tackle him, like, you don't want to be standing there like a flamingo in the middle of a shitstorm. So it's like either he needs to drop that weight, spin off of 2 feet, or at least spin with a bent knee or something like that just to protect himself. But that's just something to keep an eye on. I don't remember the rest of the question. Freeman's going to be a player's coach. It came to me. Freeman's going to be a player's coach, but I don't think he takes it easy on his guys. I mean, there's 2 camps in a row. You heard it's an incredibly physical training camp, and that's just kind of you fumble a ball, you sit the bench for a little bit and think about it. It's just kind of the way of things, whether it's Freeman or any other coach.
Sure. All right, Wicked Bronco Productions to support I appreciate the support as always, my friend. Mike, we're going to hear from a quick sponsor before we continue on with the super chats, and it's definitely one of our coolest sponsors right now, Home Field Apparel, which has some pretty unique Notre Dame gear that you're really not going to be able to find anywhere else. It's based out of Indianapolis, and they are committed to creating officially licensed and comfortable clothing. Guys, seriously, I own some of their stuff, and it really is fantastic and comfortable and unique clothing. The designs are fantastic. They really went back into the archives, the old school Notre Dame designs, and they've created some really thoughtful stuff. It's authentic, and it shows some nostalgia of Notre Dame as well. Can't wait to see folks in Notre Dame Stadium rocking some Home Field apparel as well. They actually have licenses to over 150 colleges, so you can find some gear for yourself. And then, God forbid you have like a Michigan State fan in your family or an Ole Miss fan, like they have gear for a lot of different, college football programs across the country. And even better, folks, when you use the promo code BlueGold23, you'll receive 15% off your first order with Home Field. So please go to homefieldapparel.com. I've got a couple of shirts from Home Field. Mike, I know we're getting you one as well. Hopefully a schmedium, so we can see. Don't
be weird.
The biceps, man.
Hey, I'm in double X.
Truth.
I'm a double X guy anymore. Post COVID, I'm in a double X, man. I'd love to get back to just an XL, but I've been on. I'm super familiar with Home Field. I had perused their website half a dozen times before they became a sponsor, and they got cool stuff. I mean, it's like. It's not actually vintage, right? It's new that's made to, so you don't have to pay the $150 to try and find like a vintage, Notre Dame Miami shirt they've replicated. It's a brilliant idea, frankly.
It really is. Like, I don't wear sweatshirts like this crew neck here for folks watching YouTube.
You
I
do
think
love that crew necker. You were
I
talking about it on
want
a
it.
different podcast. Yeah.
I really do want this thing. And they have it in my size, extra small. So,
Well, a couple super chats and you can get yourself a birthday present.
Okay. All right. We'll continue on here. I think we got to that one. Tom Sardi dropped a couple super chats. Really appreciate that. He said, "So all right. This is man. You guys. This is what I love about the super chats yesterday and today. You guys keep hitting the things that we want to talk about. So when I'm like, I kind of get nervous. I'm like, man, Goolsby have things we want to talk about. Well, you guys just are asking the questions for us. So thank you very much." Tom says, so can we continue to play 5 running backs? I think Estimate, Price, and Love should be the first 3 in. So let me pop up the running back stats. I really go back to Mike. You know, I'm not a big, I don't think conspiracies first. But on that one with Estimate getting those late game carries, I was like, I put my Mike Goolsby hat on. I was like, is there some kind of marketing reason, NIL reason that they just need to get this man more carries like that? That just was so like, if he got hurt there, can you imagine like the headlines that would be created? But anyway, so you got Estime, 16 attempts, 95 yards and a touchdown. Jay Love, I thought looked pretty good. Mike, when I had talked about in a couple weeks ago, that show, I was like, yeah, he looks leaner than everyone else. Did you see that? I was curious if I'm just making.
Yes.
Okay.
So a couple things, dude. Your boy loves a good conspiracy, right?
Okay.
Sometimes real life is stranger than any conspiracy that you could come up with. But we've talked about this going back a couple years ago, Mike. I mean, part of Notre Dame and what made a lot of us watching this show fans were the Rocket Ismails, were the Ricky Waters, stars, a Chris Zorich, right? A Brady Quinn, a Samardzija, a Golden Tate. Like, that's what brings fans into the fold. So for us to try and prop up or pump up Estime's numbers and getting them to 100, I'm all for it. To answer your question about Jeremiah Love and his build, we talked about this a month ago. I don't think he trained a lot in high school in terms of like in the weight room. And he said as much on a different YouTube, little blurb that he was in the weight room. And he was like, yeah, man, I didn't really, I know he ran a ton of track, et cetera, but I just don't think that he's quite dedicated himself to killing it in the weight room. So yes, he does look long and lean, but he's 6 foot. What is he? 6'1", 200 pounds, incredibly long arms. Yeah. I compared him to, when we broke down his highlight tape, I compared him to Adrian Peterson, right? And so you're not saying he's Adrian Peterson, but the running style. And then, seeing him in this game live for the first time, it was like he was a hybrid of Peterson and Darren McFadden. Darren McFadden is 6'2", 215, from Arkansas, first round pick way back when. But yeah, he'll in a year's time, he'll be 205, 210. Sure.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to be like, oh, he shouldn't be on. Like, I'm just saying, like, that was an observation I had. I like when I think things, I like to run it by Tim and Goolsby and see if I'm just crazy. But yeah, I mean, Love looked really good. I thought Payne looked good. He was the second back out there, 6 carries, 31 yards. Devin Ford only had 1 carry, and that just went for 2 yards. So Jadarian Price, his first ever carry, 19 yards and a touchdown. So yeah, thoughts on the rest of these guys, Mike?
Well, real quick, just to put a bow on that Love and his physique conversation, it speaks as much about, Jeremiah Love, the longer your arms are, the skinnier they're going to look. It is what it is. And then comparing him to an Estime, a Payne, a Price. I mean, these guys are freaking jacked, dude. Like, they don't miss curl day. So it made him look that much leaner. I don't know if it's a problem. Having rewatched the game, all of them were in on passing downs. That was a question of mine going into the season, is who's going to be your generic third down back. All of them were in on passing downs. Ford seemed to be in on passing scenarios, pass pro scenarios, more so than the others, which makes sense. I mean, he's played a lot of football. He's one of the older guys in the room, he and Audric. But I mean, Jeremiah Love was in, and they brought pressure from both sides, and they trusted Jeremiah Love as a true freshman in his first game playing in Ireland to pick it up. The other thought about the 5 backs is like Love to me would be the most logical one that is going to redshirt just based off of his youth. But if the dude's going to average 10 yards a carry, it's going to make it difficult. But big takeaway is we're not going to miss Logan Diggs at all. I think Payne has better feet than Logan Diggs does. And it's just, it's a smorgasbord between power, speed, ability to cut, footwork, etc. So I don't have any insight, but 5 backs is a lot. But I'd rather have 5 backs than 2.
Yeah. Just like we're not going to crown Sam Hartman anything based on Navy game. I would say the same with the running back room. Estime is a stud, but the rest, like we'll see. Someone made a comment. I think I saved it.
Can I add? Well, I'm gonna as you're looking that up.
Devin Ford looked good in pass pro. I can't remember if it was on the Jaden Thomas or the Jaden Greathouse one. That was not the one where Hartman scrambled, but I just remember Devin Ford picking up a nice a block for that touchdown on a blitzer. So I just wanted to note that as well. Good comment.
Yeah, I think all of them can catch. I think all of them they're trusting, and this is part of what we opened the show with, Mike, and that this is Freeman's team. It's his DNA that's kind of being infused throughout, and part of that DNA, part of that approach is going to be to play younger kids and let it hang. So that's going to be good. As dominant as we were in the run game, as dominant as the O-line played, throwing people around, we didn't really see any home runs. And I still think that Love gives you the best chance of just putting his foot in the ground and creasing a defense and just being gone. So I think I was pretty high on Love as a signee, and I haven't changed my mind. You going to make it, Mike?
I don't know, man.
Throw up a chat. Have a sip of water. All right, I'll read out loud as Mike's passing away. Goolsby, any thoughts of getting Navy getting past? Don't laugh. Goolsby, any thoughts of Navy getting past the secondary pretty easily? Past, P-A-S-T. Concerned or not to look into because of the triple O? You make me read aloud, Potatoes O'Brien, and you give me bad grammar. Okay.
I'm dying laughing over here, by the way.
So thoughts on Navy getting past P-A-S-T, the secondary pretty easily? It's Navy. You kind of get lulled to sleep. I get it. The problem was the first time it was Cam Hart, and the second time it was DJ Brown. Both could have been, the second one for sure could have and should have been a touchdown. And it's just, those guys have played way too much football. Cam Hart's a captain. You just can't do stuff like that. And we talked about, Christian Gray, you're going to get to the snap count. Don't jump the shark here, but like Christian Gray played a crap ton of football for a true freshman. And I'm just telling you, I would have a short leash on Cam Hart just because, there is a little bit of talent behind him, and Jaden Mickey looked great. But yeah, it was bad we know DJ Brown's a bit of a liability, but it was a bummer to see that happen to Hart. Concern or not, much to look into because of the triple option. Sure.
Okay. Potatoes O'Brien, legendary name, and appreciate the support. Okay, we're going back to Pine and Hartman talk from Wicked Bronco Productions. He says, difference is Goolsby. I bet you Hartman will torch Clemson, USC, and Ohio State. Torch, that's an interesting term. That's bold, but yeah, we'll see. Unlike Drew Pine, naturally. Also, people are trashing Hartman. Calm down, it's just Navy. No one's trashing Hartman after that game. I can assure you, my friend. But people go insane and droll about Caleb Williams having 4 touchdowns on San Jose State. Ghouls, real quick.
I'll take the bait. Nobody's Wicked Bronco. Nobody's trashing Hartman. That whole broadcast was just a circle jerk. Talking about Hartman, the whole thing from almost start to finish was just lauding over Sam Hartman. Nobody's really trashing him post game because it's just Navy. And I hope he does torch USC, Clemson, and OSU. I hope he does. In if there's one message that I have about Sam Hartman, He will put the ball up. He's going to make the right reads. The guy's, 46 years old. He's played 46 games. Dude, Sam Hartman's 24 years old. Like, I was done with the NFL. The NFL was done with me. My football career was over. This guy's still in fucking college. It's incredible. It's incredible. And yes, I'm envious of that. Absolutely. I wear it on my sleeve. So yeah, he ought to make the right reads. He's going to do some boneheaded stuff. He almost threw a pick six in this game, which doesn't get talked about. But it's going to come down to the receivers coming down the ball because he's going to give those guys a chance to go make a play.
Okay. Yep, everybody post a W in the chat for Wicked Bronco Production Show. Appreciate all the support here. Andrew LaBelle dropped a super chat and add, did Maris look good or are my eyes deceiving me? Excited to see Goolsby's reaction. Mr. Goolsby?
As I'm pouring myself a beverage.
Yeah. So Maris,
I don't know if we're gonna get to our script, and I am here for it. So did Maris look good? The answer is yes. Are your eyes deceiving you? Yes. So I think that both things can be true. And if I'll just gonna kind of expand upon this, and we're going to talk about Notre Dame's approach to stopping Navy and like a triple option. So I played against Navy. I played against Air Force. Navy's triple option is centered around the fullback dive. So the first couple series, they had some success at the fullback dive. Then Coach Golden smartly basically just played like plugged up the A gaps with interior guys, plugged up the B gaps. And we forced that quarterback to basically never really gave it to the fullback any longer because there was literally nothing there. And the quarterback had to pull it. Quarterback didn't want any smoke. And he kept prematurely pitching it. I mean, he didn't even ride it down the line of scrimmage. They'd have been better off running speed option, veer option. So because of the way that Golden had plugged up the interior gaps, just with bodies, with beef, with Anye, Mills, Rubio, Marist was able to just fly. So, which Marist can do. And he's an incredibly violent player on contact. The hair adds to the whole effect. Like, I dig it. But Marist's problem isn't like running to the ball and being physical. Although I don't love the way that he tackles. You see Marist sling a lot of people to the ground. It's rare that you see him like ankle tackle. And it's okay to wind up on the ground if you make the tackle. But Marist's issue, and this is one of these things where I'm cautiously optimistic, similar to Hartman, Marist struggles to diagnose plays coming at him. Down block, guard pulls, fullback kicks out, like to process all that and react. But if it's just, it's a pitch and I get to go, because if the play went at JD stepped up to take the fullback and Marist just flew over the top. So he looked great. I'm happy for him. But again, I'm still going to hold my breath until you see more of a conventional running game. And kudos to Al Golden for just plugging the stuff up and letting his guys run.
All right, a lot has happened in the YouTube comments since you were talking there, Mike. Talking about Sam Hartman. Word on the street is Sam Hartman's going straight to the retirement home after he runs out of eligibility. Hartman is going to be a doctor by the end of college. And then my uncle Tom said bad career advice from Tommy Reese for Tyler. Thank you, Uncle Tom Singer's in the chat here. I'm just kidding. I don't know who this is, but I just find it funny that someone else has my last name.
I've said to Singer and I've said to Hyde on various text messages, it would not shock me if Sam Hartman was like on The Bachelor, ABC's The Bachelor. It wouldn't shock me. It wouldn't shock me, dude. I mean, he's a good-looking kid.
The Jesse Palmer route.
The Jesse Palmer route. And Sam's cool, dude. I'd like to hang out with Sam. Like, he's a cool guy. He's money, as the kids would say. I've hung out with Jesse. Jesse's younger brother was a teammate of mine. Shout out Billy Palmer down there in Florida. Was a teammate at Notre Dame. So and Jesse is the coolest person I've ever met. He's money. He's handsome, dude. Football, played in the NFL for a few years. And now he's killing it on TV. It wouldn't shock me if Sam went the same route. It really wouldn't.
Yeah.
I mean, you could see it. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but you could see it.
Yeah. I'm just like, I really just think, though, if he has just a huge year, if he and Book can get picked at the end of the fourth round, like Sam Hartman could get I still think Sam Hartman could be a 4th or 5th round pick, dude. Like if he has a huge year, I don't know.
He had a big year last year. You saw I reached out to an NFL exec.
Yeah, I know.
So,
but doing it at Notre Dame though, doing it at Notre Dame is different than Wake Forest, right?
Yeah, and going under center, which was something that I haven't heard discussed about this game, but I love to see a quarterback under center. Love it. But yeah, but that doesn't mean sure. But I think Jesse Palmer was a 5th round pick or something off the top of my head. It doesn't mean they're going to stick. And then the NFL, again, they're looking for traits. So it's potential. We've said this before, potential versus production. Sam, boatloads of production. Yeah, how does he get better in terms of ability? I don't know. We'll see.
Correction, Jesse Palmer, 2nd round pick in the CFL draft. He was a 4th round pick in the NFL draft, but I'm just looking at his Wikipedia page. I didn't know you could get picked by both, but
well, the Palmers they're actually from Canada, so that's why he was probably a high pick.
Okay, there you go. All right, moving along. Actually, let me pause. Just 2 things, Goolsby. I'm going to throw these out there before I forget. One, I want to just give you the floor to talk about anything else you want to talk about to make sure that in this hour-plus show, Goolsby's like, finally, Mike. And then the other thing I want to throw out is and I mentioned this with the when we were talking about Jaden Greathouse, was just the snap counts here just still so strange to me. All right, Notre Dame's going to play a lot of tight ends, got it. Or those tight ends are going to play all the snaps. Mitchell Evans got 50. Holden State's got 39. Again, this article's at blueandgold.com for folks watching on YouTube. But Jaden Greathouse getting 8 snaps is just absurd to me, right? I get that if you're going to play 2 tight ends a lot, you're not going to have that slot receiver. But if Jaden Greathouse is seriously going to be like your number 1 or 2, if it's Jaden Thomas and Jaden Greathouse, those are your number 1 and 2 receivers, 1A, 1B kind of thing, then I don't care that Jaden Greathouse is, mainly a slot receiver or whatever. Like he can play to the field, he can play to the boundary, like he can play any of these positions. So like if he is better than Tobias Merriweather, if he's better than he should be playing over them, right? Am I crazy, or this is where I'm giving you my thoughts and I'm getting
I just want to make sure that you and I are clear as to what your thoughts are. So are you saying that you think based off of Jaden's performance, the 2 touchdowns, that you should swap him out? So for Merriweather played 35 snaps, Greathouse should move out of the slot and go play your field receiver?
I would definitely.
Or real quick.
Okay, let him cook.
Or are you saying that we should move away from a 12 personnel, 13 personnel, multiple tight ends on the field and go live in 11 and have 3 wides more?
My thought is that if Jaden Greathouse is a baller, he needs to play. And I know from seeing him in high school so much, like he can play all these different spots at the receiver position. He comes from an amazing high school program. I mean, he was a baller as a freshman on varsity. I just like if he's going to be this productive early on, like he needs to be playing like 8 snaps. When I saw this article, I literally had to text the author and said, "Are you sure that wasn't a typo? Like 8?" And that just seemed crazy to me. So that's all I'm saying. Like maybe it was a fluke game, like someone else said. I highly doubt it, but my thought is he needs to see the field more.
That's fine. That's fine. Yeah. I mean, it's good that we're multiple on offense. The core of the offense is going to be your 230-plus pound monster running back, your 310, 20-pound across the line offensive line. That's going to be the core of your offense. I mean, that's, again, folks, this is Coach Reese's offense. The play calling is going to look different, but the personnel groupings, et cetera, more or less, drop my phone, is the same. But it's good to be multiple. So if you're in a scenario where you're getting jammed up and you can't move the ball, then you do have the bodies in the personnel in Greathouse to go into more 11, 10. I mean, we saw empty a couple times this game. So it's good to, I mean, the more stuff that we put on film, the more things you give opposing defensive coordinators to worry about, the better. Do I think that Jaden Greathouse is going to catch 2 touchdowns every game? I don't. So
right. Right.
But yeah, I think that's the big question. And this is also, you have to factor in that this is the asterisk of this is Navy.
Right. Of course.
But
But
yeah,
yeah.
I
Yeah.
think it's just, it feels good to know that, shoot, the running game for whatever reason isn't working. We got to open it up. You know, you've got some guys back there that are more than capable. And by the
And
way,
just
Cam Williams, just side
fantastic.
note, he's going to be so dirty, dude. He's Jaden Greyhouse, but like much faster.
Damn. Yeah, you saw some of those clips from this weekend for his
Oh
game?
yeah, I mean, he's going to be sick. He's going
Yeah.
to be sick. And he's like, he might be the fastest receiver. I know Tobias is supposed to be this burner, but I mean, I know a little bit about biomechanics. Cam Williams can run.
Dude, I don't know if you saw my interview with him, and he was on my show with Tim a couple weeks
I
ago.
didn't.
And I also did an article on it as well. I was like, here's what he said for folks who didn't get to watch it. And I asked him, I was like, do you do a ton of track? And he was like, honestly, I feel like I run faster on the football field with pads on than on the track. And I just wanted to burst out in tears of joy. Like, that was my favorite thing I've ever heard. Like, football speed over track speed. Give me football speed, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know. I love that. I loved it.
I won't bore people with, but like, yeah, the way his stride works, he runs like a track athlete. I mean, there's no wasted motion. So, anyways, but yeah, I think.
Yeah, and then to your
Mike, this is a long season. There's a kid that I trained. He's a second string. He's a no star, came out of nowhere. He's playing for the Huskers. Kobe Brett, shout out Kobe, love you. You know, he's fourth, fifth string, whatever. Like, he's worked his way up, had some knee issues. He's got 3 years eligibility left. Comes out of camp as a second string safety. It's like, dude, it's a long season. So might we see some moving pieces? Tobias had a drop, looked a little goofy out there, as your boy talked about. So yeah, you might just get what you're wishing for here, buddy. It's a long season.
All right. Moving along with the super chats and comments here. Dingu says, tailgate with Mike and Mike at the OSU game. When/where?
Let's
Mike,
talk about that. Let's talk about that. So I just earlier bought my tickets for the OSU game.
Okay.
And I went to the Clemson game last year.
Can't believe they make you pay for tickets, but
well, I get a field pass, which is cool, but I mean, I'm not Joe Montana. Give me a break. And Hunter Bivin, by the way, is like the player liaison guy, ex-O lineman. He's done a knockout job. But the tickets last year for the Clemson game, big game, $144 a piece. Tickets for this OSU game, pretty good seats, 577. So screw you, Sam Hartman. You know, that's Sam's fault.
Honestly, I was looking at our viewer count, dude. I know we've grown a lot, but like a Sunday night show, we weren't. I feel like last year we were getting close to 1,000. And again, a part of that is because our show's grown, but also I kind of think it's like the Sam Hartman effect, dude. Like, people are just so jacked up about Notre Dame football right now. So we're getting the diehards and just a lot more people who are just a lot more invested in Notre Dame football right now because they have their best quarterback since fill in the blank. That's a hot topic right there. Who's the best quarterback since who? So it's just there's definitely a Sam Hartman effect going on right now.
No doubt. Yeah. And it hurts my pocketbook. You asked me on our show, the last show prior to the kickoff of the season, what excites you most about Sam Hartman? To which I responded, what he's done for the fan base. And it's kind of playing itself out. Yeah. Let's ride the wave.
In terms of a tailgate, I don't know.
I'll be there.
Don't have anything. Well, maybe that Sunday before, after Notre Dame beats Central Michigan, Goolsby, and let you guys know where to find him. I don't think I'll be able to make the Ohio State game this year, but sad. I posted this in the comments just because I didn't want to forget. Tobias Merriweather. Overreaction. What is the reaction to this? Because I was like, look, guys, like it's just one game. Like, if he puts up a stinker against Tennessee State, and then let's have a conversation. But I'm not too concerned. But you're also not the biggest Tobias Merriweather fan. If that's maybe not the correct wording. I don't know, Mike, but called him goofy. But yeah, anyways,
My
Ghouls, thoughts
thoughts.
on
It's just my thoughts. So that doesn't mean I'm not a fan. I'm encouraging him. Say, hey, it's time to. All that was prefaced with, it's time to grow up. You little goofy, right? So what was it? Maybe the third play of the game. They try and throw a quick bubble to him, drops it. Doesn't seem to bother him at all. Later on in the game, he's almost like playing that Jaden Thomas role where he's almost like a detached tight end, and he kind of stalk blocks the safety and releases. Sam's late on the throw. The throw was a little short. Again, if that was Tyler Buckner, we'd be crucifying him for missing that throw. Not a great throw, not great timing. It's a pass interference. What I'm arguing, Mike, is for some of these kids that have the genetic potential to be great, like go make that damn catch. I know it was a late ball. I know it was pass interference. But like if you want to be great, and this is for a freaking touchdown, go snag it. That's the kind of stuff. And his coach, Coach Stuckey's going to tell him the same thing in the meeting room. If you want to be great, we want to win national championships, you got to make a catch like that. But they're going to make Tobias earn his reps, Mike. Sorry.
Goolsby? Thoughts on Goolsby? 8 snaps or 7 snaps for him, and he had a pretty good game.
Felt good. I felt good for him about that. And this is my contention with Goolsby has always been his willingness, his want to compete. And he's definitely slid down the depth chart, or in terms of that's pretty made apparent by the snap count in the game. But it felt good to watch him be productive. And that was when he caught that bubble screen and scored at the end there. And I think that's what made me run to the message board and be like, gosh, dude, Navy's terrible. Because it was just like he had to beat a guy. It was bad. So again, cautiously optimistic. Goolsby's not very fast, I'll tell you that much. Really watching the film, he's not very quick.
He had a nice diving catch, like Hartman stuck. It was maybe not diving, leaping. I don't know. I like Goolsby a lot.
He was competing, Mike. He was competing, and I'm just going through my notes here.
Okay, go ahead. And this is kind of where I want to go next. So take it wherever you want, Goolsby.
I was just gonna say, he was competing. Goolsby, we're talking about. But it was against Navy. So, I want to see you compete that hard against, obviously, Ohio State if you're on the field, right? So, cautiously optimistic. I'm not going to make too much of the offensive performance in general.
Okay. What else is on your notes, Mike?
But yeah, let's. I started my notes with offensive line. A lot of max protection in terms of passing downs. Greathouse first touchdown, max protect. They left Mitch in, and I think they left Ford in. Max protect, 3-man route. And somebody still got to Sam. Who got beat on that play? It was Coogan. So at times in max protect, they're zoning this blocking scheme almost like a punt team. Punt team, you just kind of go back and catch whomever. That was a little, you got to note it. Coogan got beat on max protect. Also in terms of pass protection, and I said that the Navy coaches somewhat did Navy players a disservice. Every time that they blitzed, Mike, they declared it. They were walked up, they declared it, and everything was really tended to be, most of the heat was off of the edges. Our concern in terms of pass pro is interior wise. In Ohio State, the Tommy Eichenberg, number 35, their cracker backer. Those guys loop, they hide, they delay. So we didn't really get an answer. Can't really check that box in terms of pass protection because the way Navy lined up preseason was dumb, and good teams aren't going to show their hand like that. Rocco looked really good. I said, great for him. This is a nice note. Still doesn't have the best feet, but there were several times you saw he played with a wide base. He can drop his nuts. He's playing with a wider base. So as a trainer singer, if you can't move well laterally, you just struggle with that quickness, that twitchiness, you make yourself more lateral. So the wider your base gets, it's a happy medium between actually having to move your feet. It's if my feet are wider to begin with, it kind of offsets that lack of that. But yeah, happy for Rocco. And that was really my only O-line critique or thoughts. I mean, they should be throwing people around. They should be. I mean, your defensive line average is like 250 across the board. I went into running backs. We talked a little bit about that rotation. I'm going to come back to Audric. Stop spinning and pirouetting like a flamingo on one leg. It worries me, bro, because you're going to get gang tackled and protect yourself.
We did go through the running backs a good bit.
Yeah. Well,
Tyree, I know because I read through your notes. Dude, Tyree did. I mean, I know he changed numbers for the third time, but he did not look like Chris Tyree. Like dude, he looks awesome.
Yeah, he did.
He looks really good.
He looked comfortable. And some of this stuff's tough to gauge through the screen, bro. But like the way he carried himself, it was almost like like shades of like a Kyron Williams. Like he looked like he just got his mojo back. Like he looked proud out there. And I thought he looked great. I mean, my note on Tyree looked great, all caps. And I said he'll be an NFL draft pick, no doubt. And yeah, I talked on the preseason show evaluating recruits. I was happy to be wrong if we saw him running downfield routes and actually playing receiver. And folks, I'm happy to be wrong. I think we got a good one in Tyree. Also low on the snap counts.
Yeah. Again, I'm curious if it's going to be a lot of 12 personnel moving forward. Maybe, hey, you're playing Navy, you didn't need to chuck around a ton. Yeah, Tyree and Colsey stock up for me. I'm just like selfishly too, like just covering those recruitments. Just very excited for those two guys.
Well, the offense, Mike, if you want to go 11, you want to go spread. For lack of a better term, you want to go spread because you love all these receivers. We love their potential. With putting Sam, and we get into a little bit of X's and O's, putting Sam under center with the play action, I mean, that's the offense. So if you go spread, you lose that dynamic that the play action brings to freeze people. So they're still going to build the offense around the running backs, and then the passing game can be ancillary.
But maybe Tobias doesn't get 35 snaps to Colsey 7. That's kind of where I'm at. I don't know.
Well, the other thing about Tobias, golly, how much time do people talk about Tobias? How much time do people spend talking about Tobias Merriweather? The guy's got one career catch. And like I said last episode, people treat this poor kid like he's Arch Manning. It's like he's just a high 4-star recruit. And for some reason, wink, wink, it's like people have like, where did all this hype come from? It's like, just give the kid time to develop. And I think he still does. I think he needs more time to develop. The physical potential is there, but like, we've got other players as well. There's a ton of talent in that room.
Yeah, guy says low on the snap counts. We're always low on snaps when facing Navy, so that might have something to do with it. Yeah, that's a good point. I mean,
perhaps
for 80% of the fourth quarter, Navy was just on the field. My boy Angeli was about to go in and early in the fourth, and then Navy is like an 8-minute drive, so totally get it. Just one ND Gal, $10 super chat. Really appreciate this. Linebackers went A-/B+. Yes, Ghouls?
Talking to the wrong guy, sweetheart. If we want like a A-, B+ from linebackers, I would say it was a B-. And there's a lot of missed tackles. JD Bertrand's poor like short arm length showed up. I mean, there was one play that Navy running back that had no tape, no gloves on. He looked like a high school sophomore out there, number 24. He broke like 6 tackles. JD missed him twice on one play. I had a snap in college, bro, where I missed a player on twice on one play, and they threw a screen to Anquan Bolden, and he brought it all the way across the field against Florida State. And I'd say Anquan Bolden's not a third-string running back for Navy. But, yeah, linebackers played fine. Al Golden gets the A-, the B+ in terms of him scheming it up, clogging everything in with bodies, and letting those guys run. But if we don't turn the ball over, those guys don't get picks. It's tough for me to get into the A category when it comes to linebackers.
All right, just one ND Gal, really appreciate the super chat. Yep, Domer Wop says thoughts on special teams and new special teams coach Marty Biaggi. I guess I kind of summoned this comment, but yeah, Mike, thoughts?
I'm glad that this was brought up. I hadn't heard this discussed anywhere, so we get a transfer kicker, and that's what Notre Dame's going to do, folks. I mean, they're not going to spend time or energy, resources recruiting specialists anymore. We're just going to pluck grad transfers. We did that with Spencer Strader from South Florida. Missed a field goal. And this goes back to like any critique, observations that aren't rosy of the team, especially with Sam Hartman, Singer. You look at this team through the lens of like, is this a championship team? And championship, high-level, elite football, like the margins are so slim, you can't be missing 40-yard field goals. So that was a bummer. The punt return game back to Tyree looked great. Boy, is it nice to have Salerno moved out of that role.
Yeah. Love seeing Tyree back there.
Get him the ball.
Yep. Trash with our super chat. Jason Garrett commented on Navy going for 3 at the end of the game and calling timeout when the game was over. How do you feel about those things, Mike?
I don't care, if I'm honest with you. The game was over. They're trying to get points on the board. I appreciate that, but this Navy team, whether it was they were just physically beat down, but they weren't as relentless as you're typically accustomed to seeing. I didn't see that on Saturday. It's like they had a little bit of quit in them, no matter how much the commentators are going to say that they don't. And sometimes, and I've been in games like this under Coach Willingham specifically, playing USC specifically, where like you just know our scheme sucks. Like you go down into halftime down by 10 and you're losing by 30 plus points in the blink of an eye. You're like, we're beat. We're beat athletically, we're beat with a scheme, and you just kind of fold up your lawn chair and want to go home. I think that's where Navy was at. So just get some points on the board, sure.
Joseph with the super chat says, lifelong Goolsby fan here. 8th grade me still isn't over the 0-2 BC game. How big was getting out of a Navy game with 0 injuries? That never happens.
Great. Great question, Joseph, because you triggered something. Oh, and by the way, so Joseph knows we broke out the green jerseys for that 0-2. We went into that game ranked, 4 in the country, something like that.
Dude, one of your first shows with us, you broke down that whole experience in the locker room, I want to say.
Should I go through it again?
Yeah, yeah, let's do it.
We got a minute.
Yeah.
So this year we're wearing green against Ohio State, right, Mike? So they give fans time to buy the jerseys, whatever. Like I get it, but it takes away the surprise factor, the wow factor. So traditionally, you warm up in your blue jerseys, and you go back in the locker room after warm-ups. You're like, oh my God, there's green jerseys. And then you have to change clothes, and then you come out in green after having warmed up in blue, and the fans supposed to lose their mind. The stadium's supposed to go bonkers. But I always spatted my ankles. I taped my shoes. I had like a shoulder strap thing. And you basically have to disrobe and then hurry up and put all the green socks on. You had to take your shoes off. And I thought it was a tremendous pain in the ass. And anybody that knows like modern day football, dude, like everything is tight, tight, tight. So it's like, it's tiresome to take your clothes off, to take your pads off, all that stuff. So it's like, we almost came out tired from having to change in the locker room. But that's just a side note. Yes, getting out of the game with 0 injuries is super important. Haven't heard this discussed either. Navy can't cut anymore. They can't cut block. So back to the prior question about linebackers, A-, B+. It's like, dude, you're playing against a 250-pound off. It's like a high school offensive line. We took away the fullback, and they can't cut you. It's like all you're doing is just running the ball. Back when I played Uncle Rico, it's like, you had people at your feet all game long. Made it much, much more difficult. So the fact that they can't cut, yes, that helps you get out of there unscathed.
I love it, Goolsby, and a great story. Rick said, glad we got a super chat with this question. Thoughts on the new rule change and not stopping the clock on first downs? I think it's the same exact ruling as the NFL. So if you get a first down, clock keeps going. Prior it was the ball needed to be set. He said, do you like the quicker game? Can this hurt trying to come back in the fourth quarter?
I like the rule. I mean, our attention spans have gotten shorter and shorter and shorter. I like the rule. Can it hurt a comeback? Of course, but you just got to adjust. But it's nice to be able to get through a game. That's half the perk, Mike, is sometimes going to a high school game. You get out of there in 2 hours, and an NBC broadcast, I mean, they can run on. So I like it.
Yeah.
And we look at that kind of through like a schematic perspective, but it's good for players too. It just is.
Yeah, it evens out, right? It might help Notre Dame one game, might hurt them the next, in terms of trying to come back. So
yeah, it is. Rules change all the time, especially in the league. Yeah.
Okay. I think we're caught up on Super Chats.
All right. I think, dude, I've touched on just a couple other just personnel notes. Gabe Rubio, proud of you, buddy. Like, he looks like a different player, plays with a much wider base. Last year, he was just kind of like narrow, bull rush. Things are moving really quickly for him, I'm sure, last year. So he looked great. I think he's going to be a player for us. Jason Anye, we heard a lot about how vocal he was in camp in terms of being like a hype man and all that. And I've been around some of those guys. And if you're that vocal, are you trying to use your mouth to offset your maybe lack of ability? Because coaches tend to eat that stuff up. It can be phony, but he played well. Anye played really well, played physical. And Lord, Mike, if you thought Jeremiah Love looks thin at 200, Jason Anye looks thin at 290. I mean, he does. He's 290 and looks fit. So it's like that guy, he should be, I mean, he could be at 320. I mean, if you take a Jason Anye, put 30 pounds on him, he looks like an Alabama 3 technique, an SEC 3 technique.
Yeah. There's one play late in the game, Mike. Quarterback for Notre Dame came in. We don't need to name him, but threw a really nice 2-yard pass out to Rico Flores. Can we really break that one down?
On all my rewatches, I'm sorry, Angeli. I don't know if at a certain point I stopped paying attention in the rewatches. So I'll make it a point. I'll go back and break that play down. What was it, Micah? Is it a bubble or a slant or something, a 2-yard pass?
Yeah, it was a little – I don't know if it was a read option and throw it out or if it was a designed play action, but I thought it was brilliant. That was really brilliant stuff.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. We've talked Hartman, running backs. We've talked every position on the offense. I mean, we talked offensive line, right? I mean, all
O-line, yeah. O-line, I mean, look dominant. I'm a little – again, I still feel the exact same way. I'm still concerned about interior – pass rush, games, delayed blitz versus an Ohio State. Navy, they declared what they were doing pre-snap, and most of it came off the offside. Like, again, there's plays, they vacate the middle linebacker, and then we just hand the ball off to a 230. There's nobody in the middle of the defense to make a tackle. It's like, I don't quite know what the Navy coaching staff was thinking. Jalen Sneed, we got to touch on. He's the defense's version of Tobias in a lot of ways, in terms of fan expectations. So he didn't get a chance to do a whole lot. He played quite a bit, which is super encouraging. I don't really care how he looked playing Navy. My one takeaway in watching the game, Singer, was Sneed was making checks. And there was a couple times he beat JD to make said check where, like, they're out there doing – signaling to the defense. And I'm like, okay, Jalen's picking up the defense. So when I always tell that to like kids that you work with, like that are going into college, like communicate on film. You have to be animated on film so those coaches know that when they watch the film back because they can't hear you. So that was super encouraging to see Jalen picking up the defense, because that's always been the knock, is it's going to take them longer. And then the only other really player note that stood out is the Baptiste, the defensive end, the transfer from Ohio State. Looks like a Foskey clone.
Yeah.
I mean, they look very, very similar in terms of body types. Maybe it's just that single-digit number. But he's going to be a really good player for us too. And he was playing like an alpha in terms of his energy level and the way that he was kind of inserting himself into the defense. So super optimistic. And that's a type of kid like that. It's like, oh, I bet you he has a killer game against Ohio State. So another reason to look forward to that matchup.
You talked about the Navy coaches, like what were they doing? I love this tweet from Pete Sampson. Do you look at
ridiculous?
And
prior to this place, that's number 51, the linebacker in front of Fisher, 52 rather. Yeah, I remember this place, but this is the fumble, I think, actually, the play that Audric fumbled it. Wish we could watch it. But yeah, this is stupid.
Yeah.
So they kept a 2-man shell all game, like 2 deep shell, and we kind of just had our way with them. So Ohio State's not going to do this.
Yeah, for sure. Who was your MVP of the game? Susan wants to know, Mike.
Let's try and be creative. Is this Susan that always jumps in here? Is that Susan?
It is Susan. She's
hey, Susan. Another year at Notre Dame football with Susan. I love it. So somebody's going to say Marist on defense. Somebody's going to say Sam Hartman. I guess I have to say Sam Hartman, begrudgingly. I can't think of anything else clever.
What did you think about Jared Parker?
I thought he did great. Kind
of like what you said earlier. Not a ton. It didn't look a whole lot different, but still, I mean, called a pretty good game. But again, Navy, everything was
wrong. What Navy was doing on defense was sad, frankly. For those players, it was sad. And then not to adjust on offense and run speed option, to run veer option, because that quarterback wouldn't even get to the defensive end. And he would be like, you take it, whereas if you played an Air Force, that quarterback's trying to keep the ball pitch late. So not a lot of adjustments by Navy. And I thought about this, Mike, and, this season now with all of the entrails of Brian Kelly having left, there's nothing here. Your strength coach, that's what I forget when I kick the show off. New strength coach. There's nothing left of the old guard, nothing. So this season to me is as much about Freeman and his coaches as it is the players. And I think that Al Golden did a great job week 0 rather, and I think Coach Parker did as well.
There was someone who asked the question earlier, and I forgot to cue it up, but just like, do you think Freeman, I think it was DGA, by the way, do you think Freeman's coming into his own as a head coach? Like, he seemed to kind of, and I think we've talked about this, right? Like, and even a press conference, he said, like, yeah, last year we said, oh, it's all about, whatever, making the playoffs or winning title, whatever. Now it's more like we're taking it game by game. So he seems to definitely be coming into his own more.
So say that again. Last year that they thought that he was talking about.
Well, he admitted, he was like, last year I'd say things like, oh, everything we do is about winning a championship or whatever. Now he's like, now we're just focused on one game at a time. Like,
oh, interesting.
I'm paraphrasing, but
sure.
He definitely seems to, and I think someone just said, Andrew says he's way more calm in pregame interview on the sideline. He definitely seems to know what he's doing. Not that he didn't before, but he knows even more.
He's still a young man, and he's the head coach of Notre Dame football, one of the biggest brands in the world. So yeah, I mean, sometimes you got to fake it till you make it. I can recall the first handful of games, obviously Ohio State, and then that mess of a game that was Marshall, like his facial expressions, it was just like, ooh, coach. When he watches that back, like you can't be looking like that. You got to be stoic, or you got to be angry, or you got to, you can't just have these confused looks on his face. But yeah, you got to give the guy time, and it's his team. It'll be curious where you said last year his focus, whether he believed it or not, was go win that championship. That's the ultimate goal. When does that approach change throughout the course of this season?
Sure.
Because you don't hear a lot of that.
Yeah, the Diamond said Chris O'Leary still there.
Thank you.
He is, but he was a GA under Kelly. Freeman hired him as safety coach. That was Freeman's hire. Did Brian Kelly sign off on it? Sure, but that was Freeman's hire, actually. Mm-hmm. And then as you said that, Mike, I was just thinking, like, different like recruiting like not recruiting stuff, just like management team. But in terms of on-field coaches and those people, it's
Chris Basic's their equipment guy. He was there when I was there as like the assistant equipment guy.
Okay, there you go.
But so real quick on Chris O'Leary, because we didn't touch on the safeties. Xavier Watts. Yeah, Xavier Watts looks thick. Like he's a thick boy back there. He kind of looks like Budda Baker, who was I think a first-round pick out of Washington, plays for the Arizona Cardinals. Definitely probably the weak link of the defense still, safety-wise. I mean, I pray, like I wish, maybe Schuler gets on the field, but there's got to be a better, and I know Tim Hyde would agree with me on this, and a lot of Notre Dame fans would. They don't probably pay close enough attention, but DJ Brown, get out of here, dude. Like you're a fifth-year senior. You're still missing tackles. You busted a coverage against Navy. You just wish that there was another younger kid that had more potential, a higher ceiling, a brighter future that you could roll in. So, but Xavier Watts flashed a couple games, and you would have thought that a game like this, because he's just playing that middle field safety where he just comes down and kills that pitch, he would have had more plays, but it just didn't play itself out that way. But physically, he looks great. He looks thick, looks tightly wound. Still expect big things from him.
I talked about this in my show with Tim. I just thought it was interesting. Like you bring in Antonio Carter from Rhode Island, a pretty highly coveted transfer, Thomas Harper from Oklahoma State, and these guys don't even really get in until the second half and the game is over.
And Harper didn't look great. Harper didn't look great when he was in either.
And 12 snaps from the nickel spot, and then Anthony Carter just 7 at safety. I thought that was interesting. Someone mentioned, talking about Javonte Jean-Baptiste. If I recall, he didn't get in until the third series of the game. Like Notre Dame did not rotate defensively much early at all. I remember focusing on that. I mean, it was, your Morrison, your Harts, Howard Cross, Nana, Batelho. Like it was obviously the 3, 8th year, whatever linebackers. Sure. Like they didn't rotate, dude, until
that makes sense.
Like, third drive.
Yeah. That makes sense for Navy.
Okay, so that's what I asked Tim. I was like, is that because you want to keep that continuity?
It's just, dude, it's you can't really replicate it in practice, the timing and the quickness of things. So, yeah, you're probably going to play it a little bit conservative. Be like, let me just put my guys out here, my most experienced group, first couple 2-3 series until we can get our bearings. I have no problem with that.
Okay.
That's pretty standard.
Why ask?
Well, yeah, the lack of the fullback usage. Because, dude, when I played, they had a guy, Kyle Eckel, who played fullback in the NFL. I think the Patriots drafted him or something. And when you're playing linebacker, dude, that gap could be, 8 inches wide, and they're still going to give that fullback, and you still had to stick your head in there, even though it didn't look like there was a hole for a back to go through. You get 4 yards. So they took that fullback away. And in that Navy's version of triple option, gumming up the interior defensive line, taking that away, Notre Dame defense kind of had a field day. Still no turnovers. That's one game down, no turnovers. Had a chance, got to come up with the ball.
All right, couple more super chats, and then we may sign off, depending on how Goolsby's feeling. And not to put you on the spot, Goolsby, but we're hour 18 or hour 19 in here. But Taylor says, can we run a shallow playbook until the Ohio State game and avoid giving them an early look at the real playbook? I mean, you do that, you got to play NC State on the road. NC State's not a bad team, so I don't know about all that. Mike, what do you think?
I get the train of thought, but I think that's more of a fan thing. I mean, the preseason NFL is real, but this is college football. There's only so many games. There's only so much time with these kids. And it's not like the Water Boy where it's like Coach Parker's got this like hidden notebook of like crazy like plays. You're going to see some things that they're going to sprinkle in, but yeah, over the next couple, you got to run the stuff that you're going to run against Ohio State. You got to rep it in a game situation. So some of that, again, I get the train of thought, Taylor, but I think that's more of fan stuff. They're running their offense.
Yeah, can Notre Dame invent something new before Ohio State? It's not like Well, maybe they bring out
I
some
mean,
new wildcats.
you saw Payne take a direct snap from shotgun. That might be one of those things, Taylor, that you would keep holstered and try and surprise Ohio State with. Sure, you can do more stuff out of it, right? Go ahead.
Well, what about the coach speak kind of thing of, well, now they have something now they got to prepare for that. Now we're having them waste practice time. Now they got to prepare for us having a direct snap.
So that's counter to what Taylor's saying. So Taylor's saying we're going to use a third of the playbook and keep everything close to the vest. You're arguing if you show Ohio State all of this crap, then you're only going to use 50% of it. That takes coach's time. It's a distraction. Yeah. Reminds me when Coach Willingham got here and you had Carlisle Holiday as your quarterback, one of the best athletes, finest athletes I've ever been around. You know, ran 4.5 flat at like 225 pounds. Coach Willingham gets here and first press conference, he says 3 words, no more options. So he takes option out of the offense. And how much easier did that make us to game plan for? If we could have just sprinkled Carlisle 5-6 times a game, run an option, you'd have made those defensive coordinators lose a lot more sleep. So we'll see what happens. But I think we're running a real offense.
Yeah, Taylor, really appreciate the super chat. Good thoughts there. I think this is a great way to kind of wrap up the show, Mike. Is going right back to Sam Hartman. So Cody says with a very generous $20 super chat. Really appreciate that. He says, with Hartman slinging it, does this team have a shot to go the distance? What say you, Mr. Goolsby?
Let's just ride the wave, Mike. And I'm going to say absolutely. We're going to ride this. The Sam tsunami, man. Let's ride this wave, dude.
I know you watch my show with Tim on Wednesdays, or I know you listen back, and Tim has said it a few times. You know what? Maybe he hasn't said it live on air. Maybe he's just said it to me after our shows. So I don't know if I'm outing Tim, but he'll say, "Man, I love when Goolsby said I'm not here to get hate mail." So you guys are just, let's just see. Just don't want hate mail now.
Tim is such a gentleman, but Tim is far more critical of all things Notre Dame football on a text message than he is on a podcast. Far more critical.
Why I
nicknamed if we get Tim to open up a little bit more on the podcast of what he really thinks, it'd be gold.
Well, okay, I agree with you, right? And I nicknamed him Politician Tim for a reason. And Goolsby and I say this in love because Tim's our boy. But like that, the epic, infamous argument that Tim and I got on that show 2-3 weeks ago about Angeli, that was such a surprise to me because Tim is never like that. I remember after the show, he's like, "Oh yeah, I like Angeli. He's a good quarterback." I'm like, "Wait, what? What was all that about?" We basically agreed.
Well,
we just kind of got there in different ways. So
you're overly sensitive, which I can completely empathize.
Sensitive.
Yeah. Angeli is your version of Buckner, where it's like, you're sensitive. You're like, what are you saying? Because you got upset over the fact that Angeli is the de facto number 2 just because he's been in the system.
I just think I don't know. It's just like, why? What's the point? I don't know. I just feel like
I don't want to get away from
a subtle shot just to take a shot. Like it's just,
hey man,
like why?
If you're going to give it, you got to be able to take it, Michael. But in terms of Hartman slinging it, does the team have a shot to go to the distance? Of course they do. I could tell you, Sam threw a pass. I think it was third quarter. A better corner, a Power 5 athlete would have picked that off and made a crib call. Sam was under zero duress during this game. Maybe 4 times he was pressured. The one on the second touchdown to Jaden Grayhouse, some slob of a defensive lineman, and then Sam avoids it, steps up. That was Mike. So we know that you hadn't seen the program. Have you seen Varsity Blues, the movie?
I plead the fifth. I will not answer those questions anymore. Dude, you could say, have you ever looked at your wife? And I'm going to say, Mike, I've never looked at my wife. Or I refuse to say if I've ever looked at my wife. That's my answer to that. So I refuse to answer.
Go a lot of ways with that. But there's some of these scenes in football movies.
Touche.
There's some of these scenes in football movies where they show a scene in the program where like he's pointing out to his blockers, like, you know, everything's in kind of slow motion and guys are falling off. Like that effort by that defensive lineman when Sam, you know, the play of the game, as Jason Garrett called it, like it just reminded me of something you would see like an extra on a film set diving to go get the star quarterback. It was poor. But if Sam's going to throw some picks, he's fun to watch because on that kind of short, late throw to Tobias in the back of the end zone, like he's talking to himself, like he was like, I got to put more touch on it. And there's a couple plays later, he basically throws what amounts to a check down to Salerno, and Salerno turned this way. Maybe Sam put the ball in the wrong spot. Sam didn't like the placement of that ball. And Sam told himself, because the poor kid's on camera every single snap, he told himself, he goes, that's bullshit. And he was talking to himself. He didn't like the way the placement of that ball and that pass to Salerno, because Salerno kind of got popped, and that was Sam's fault. But Sam's going to throw some picks when he has to drive the ball. I mean, I'm talking about across the field throw. When he has to drive the ball, he telegraphs it quite a bit just because he doesn't have that live arm to just snap the ball out there. So he's going to throw some picks, and they're going to be on like comebacks. If I'm an opposing team, I'm teaching my DBs to just play catch technique. I still don't think Sam's got an arm to throw a ball 55 plus yards accurately. I don't. But he knows where to go with it, and he does bring a lot of confidence that you can feel, frankly, through your TV screen. So I'm riding the wave and fully support him. And it absolutely, it's just nice to turn the TV on and be like, wow, this is what quarterback play looks like, or ought to.
Speaking of pick sixes, we have seen some of those in the past couple of years. So, you know.
That was a shot. We'll let it slide.
Andrew Gilmore says, all right, this is going to be the last comment. Did you see Zachariah Branch from USC, Reggie Bush light?
I did see him. Yeah, we don't have a kid on our team that can do that in terms of that stop, start, wiggle, shake. I mean, all that stuff's just natural ability and really the confidence in terms of what that kid plays with. We don't have that kid. Yeah, Reggie Bush light. I think that's a fun comparison.
Yeah, I saw him in high school at Gorman. He was insane.
Yeah.
I remember seeing a punt return for him take it to the house. He was a pretty impressive player. So, Mr. Goolsby, fantastic show.
Fun show.
So we'll see you. We'll have to come up with some topics after the Tennessee State game, I'm sure. We'll have plenty. The sky will be falling, or Notre Dame will be the best team to ever play a college football game. It'll be one of the two after that game. I'm sort of kidding, but yeah.
No, I mean, I think the Ohio State game is the game, and then there's a tough stretch. There's a long stretch there. Playing USC in some cold-ish weather at home, playing in the Coliseum is difficult. I've said this before. Like, the field seems bigger than a normal field for whatever reason. So that's a luxury. I think we're better than Clemson, but the way that we beat Clemson last year, you know, they're going to come ready to play this year.
Not happening again. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, not in that fashion, but I do think we have the horses now, having been on the field last year, looking at the body types, like, damn, we look way better in pads than they do. And that counts for something. So, yeah, I mean, it could be a playoff team. It ought to be. Tim says, most people say, 10-2. You hear a lot of 10-2. So that means you brought in a rental quarterback with, so much experience in Sam to win one more game than last year. That's not good enough for me.
Regular season, right? So eight wins in the regular season, 10 wins regular. So 2.
Fair. Okay. So what are they saying? So we're saying, I'm saying we should lose one regular season game with Sam Hartman. I think the goal should be to make the playoff.
Yeah.
And then that's where you brought him in, is to be clutch in those types of environments. That's how I feel.
I don't think Tim disagrees with you. I think he's just saying that's why I think they're going. He thinks they're going to go 10-2. I'm pretty sure he refused to pick 10-2 last year though, but that was his whole shtick. But yeah, so if they finished 9-4, right, 13 games, so he would say 10-2, and then maybe get to 11 with a bowl game is kind of what he's saying.
I just think the Ohio State's the biggest game of the year.
Oh.
I mean, not even it's not even close.
All Tim's talked about since Oklahoma State, South Carolina game was Ohio State.
Yeah.
And after the Ohio State game,
that last question, or that question about, can we make a run? It's like, I think we ought to. I think that's why we did this. I think that's why we made this move.
It's a tough schedule with the big 3 games. You got, like Tom says, NC State, Louisville, Duke, Pitt. I mean, I don't know about so much Pitt, but yeah, there's definitely some tough games on this schedule. So I think an 11-1 Notre Dame team makes the playoff, and that was my bold prediction with Sam Hartman going to New York. So we will see.
I just can't help but this is my closing thought.
Yep.
Is at this point in Freeman's tenure, I've been doing this long enough with you, and gosh dang, do I spend a lot of time watching these games. It's like, I cannot help all of my critiques, the way that I'm evaluating is this a championship level team or not? Because I don't want to be doing this a decade from now. I don't want to be doing this 5 years from now, Mike. It's like, let's get it done. So if you're hypercritical when you go through this stuff with a fine-tooth comb, again, the margin of error at elite top 3, top 4 level football is small. So you got to be hypercritical. You got to execute. That's where I'm at.
All right. Well, great show from Mr. Goolsby. Our next show will be Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern time with Tim Hyde. We'll have a recruiting show, 10:30 a.m. This is all Eastern time with myself and Kyle Kelly. And then, we'll be back at it. Or actually, Horka has a show tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern time with Darren Pritchett. We'll have a Saturday, of course, show after the Tennessee State game. Tim and I will be live moments after the game, and then Goolsby and I will be back next Sunday. After the Ohio State game, Mike, I'm post-game. You're hopping on with me and Goolsby. Or, excuse me, me and Hyde, right?
I'll be there. I'll be there.
So we'll probably have Hyde jump on your Sunday show then. That's what we'll do.
Well, let's just think about this. Sure, I'm down to do whatever, man. You know what I mean? I'm down to do whatever. But think about, if I'm there, could we come up with some sort of creative content? Whether you're doing like an IG live from this, if I'm going to be on the field, prior to kickoff, there's got to be something fun we can do if you just spitball or drop a comment.
Yeah, let us know.
Drop a comment if you come up with something creative you'd like to see content being at the Ohio State game.
I like it.
Nice.
Goolsby thinking with his media hat on. So.
Yeah, man. All right, let's get out of here, buddy.
All right, fantastic show. Dennis, really appreciate the super sticker here. Didn't see a comment from you, but I really do appreciate the support. Fantastic show, everyone. Might be our best Goolsby show yet. And that's really saying something, because all these are just absolute bangers with our former Notre Dame captain and linebacker. Appreciate you guys. Again, I'm Mike Singer. He's Mike Goolsby, and we will catch you guys next time.